Hi, I am Dr. JP Silvera from Tailor-Made Health and Wellness, and I want to start with something a patient told me just a few days ago, because I think it's going to sound familiar to a lot of people watching this. She came in and said, I felt completely fine right after the accident. I almost didn't come in. Almost didn't come in. And I hear that constantly, more than almost anything else. Her neck had started stiffening up 2 days after the crash. Not one day, not at the scene, 2 days later. By that point, she had already talked herself out of it being serious. She figured if something were really wrong, she would have felt it immediately. That assumption is one of the most dangerous things that happens after a car accident, and today I want to break down exactly what's actually happening in your body after a crash, what we do when you come in, and one specific thing you need to know if you're in Florida and you were recently in an accident. So let's start with the biology, because once you understand this, the delayed pain stops being confusing and starts making complete sense. When your car gets hit, your body registers danger in a fraction of a second. Before you've even processed what happened, your nervous system has already flooded your bloodstream with adrenaline and cortisol. These aren't small amounts. These are the same chemicals that allow people to lift cars off other people in emergencies. They are your body's emergency override system. And one of the things they do very effectively is suppress pain signals. So you're sitting at the scene, your heart is pounding, you're exchanging insurance information, maybe you're talking to police, and you genuinely feel okay. Not okay as in I'm pretending, okay as in your nervous system is actively blocking the signal. Then you go home, the adrenaline drops, you sleep, you wake up the next morning or the morning after that, and your neck won't turn. Your upper back feels like something is locked. Your head is pounding. And now you're 2 or 3 days out from the accident, wondering if this is even related. It is almost always related. What you're feeling at that point is the inflammation catching up, soft tissue injuries, the muscles, the ligaments, the tendons around your spine. They don't always bleed. They don't show up on a standard x-ray. They don't announce themselves the way a broken bone does. They swell, they tighten, and they do it on a delay. The clinical term for what that patient was experiencing is delayed onset whiplash, and it is one of the most common presentations we see after rear end and side impact collisions. Here's the part that concerns me most when people wait. Soft tissue inflammation that isn't addressed doesn't just resolve on its own in most cases. It compensates. Your body starts guarding the injured area, which means the muscles around it start working harder than they should, which creates new tension patterns, which creates new pain in new places. What starts as a stiff neck becomes a headache. What starts as a headache becomes shoulder tightness. By the time people come in 3 or 4 weeks later, we're not just dealing with the original injury anymore. We're dealing with everything their body did to work around it. Early evaluation changes that trajectory. When someone comes into tailor-made health and wellness after an accident, the first thing we do is listen. Not a quick intake form, actually listen. Where does it hurt? When did it start? What does it feel like? Does it change when you move in a certain direction? That history matters because it tells us what structures are likely involved before I even put my hands on you. Then we examine how you're actually moving, range of motion, where you're guarding, what your posture looks like compared to what it should. I'm looking for the pattern of restriction, not just the location of pain, because the two are often in different places after a whiplash type injury. I explain what I find in plain language, not jargon, not a chart I point at while you nod along. I walk you through what happened to your spine biomechanically, what that means for how you're feeling, and what a realistic course of care looks like. And if something shows up that falls outside what chiropractic can address, if I think you need imaging or a referral to another provider, I tell you that directly. No false guarantees, no overselling what an adjustment can do. We see patients in both English and Spanish, and I want to be clear that that matters to us beyond just being a checkbox. When someone is in pain and stressed and trying to understand a medical situation and an insurance situation at the same time, being able to do all of that in your first language is not a small thing.